Many things have a very simple beginning, oftentimes one not even dreamed of. It was in this manner that in 2001, Father Derek Maziolek and Father Roberto Donato decided to form a prayer group in the parish of St. John Vianney in Lower Sackville. The pastor at that time, Father Joseph Christensen, gave his consent, and soon a group of 22 people began to meet weekly on Monday evenings. A few months after the beginning of this first group, other people decided to take part in these meetings. However, because of the confidentiality involved in the sharing of the word, they decided to open a second community that they simply called the Tuesday Community. Now they had a group of 22 and a group of 18 participants, and so the group became quite large. Another fact not to be left out is that both Father Derek and Father Roberto gave a lot of space to individual confessions and to spiritual direction. In the same year, they had to open two other communities, one at St. Elizabeth Seton with 16 people, and the other at West Chesapeake with 9. From these groups, that also included within them were youth and young adults, there began to sprout vocations, first to the diaconate, that to this date are in the formation program, and then to the religious life. At this point, the bishop of that time, Most Reverend Terence Prendergast, S.J., asked Father Roberto to accept the office of assistant to the vocations director, Father James Mallon. Very soon, a problem became evident. These young people did not feel called to the forms of religious life that the diocese could offer. Some of them, men as well as women, would have had to leave the diocese, and in some cases even the country, in order to answer the voice speaking to their hearts. It was during this time that Father James Mallon and the Archbishop suggested to Father Roberto the idea of forming a religious community here in our diocese. Therefore, in 2004-2005, with the blessing of the ordinary and the assent of the pastor, Father Roberto moved into the glebe of the parish of St. Elizabeth Seton, accompanied by 3 young men. They began to have discernment meetings on Saturdays and Sundays, which were for both men and women, and there was often a very full house. Every morning at 6:30 they had Mass, which had a regular attendance of 20 to 30 faithful from the area, followed by morning prayer. Then, in the evenings, there was an hour of Eucharistic adoration and Vespers. At the end of that year, in 2005, 2 young men and 5 women began their novitiate. Many diocesan priests were involved in the formation of these men and women, as the formation of the diocesan and the religious vocations were not yet distinct and completely separate. Among those who were involved in the formation were Bishop Campbell and Archbishop Hayes, Fathers Christensen, Mallon, Fletcher, Hattie, David, Richards, Connolly, as well as Marilyn Sweet for the liturgy, among others. The big problem was the religious formation of the women. Father Roberto had asked the sisters of the Franciscan missionaries if they could send one of their sisters, a sister who had been the novice mistress for a long time over in Australia. However, at the last minute they told him that they had closed the house in Rome where this sister had been living, and that she had been transferred to another place to become the superior. Consequently, Father Roberto had to supply the formation himself. Fortunately, in the second half of the novitiate, Father Roberto came into contact with 2 hermit sisters in Cape Breton. They had lived for 27 years in the forest without electricity or running water. Before their eremitical life, they had both lived the religious life, one as a cloistered sister, the other as a teaching sister, and thus they helped him to bring the novitiate of the sisters to a successful end. After this year, there were new members who began their novitiate, and soon the need to split up the groups became evident. This growth of the community has continued to this day. All this time, the Franciscans have lived on charitable donations and the good-heartedness of people. Thanks to God, they have never lacked anything. On the contrary, oftentimes there was more than needed, and the generosity of the people has never stopped. The Franciscans experienced the truth that the Lord never abandons those who entrust themselves to His care. As you know, Father Roberto had been a conventual Franciscan for some time, and has maintained optimal relationships with the large majority of the friars. He began to discuss with them the possibility of them giving these new friars a sound formation, one that would not be reduced to being simply Robertinian, i.e. Father Roberto formation. This project was agreed upon, and Bishop Prendergast confirmed the decision. There was also another motive for the choice of Italy, and that is the relative cost for university studies. The payment for one seminarian in Toronto equals the cost of 3 students in Italy, and this includes the cost of the flights. So thus the motivation was to make the choice in a spirit of poverty. A short while later, there began to arise canonical thoughts. Father Roberto met with 2 friars, one from the Secretariat of State, and the other a professor at a pontifical university in Rome, regarding the question of which canonical status would be the best situation for the Franciscans of Halifax.
So, Lord, make us servants of your peace. Where there is hate, may we sow love. Where there is hurt, may we forgive. Where there is strife, may we make one. Where all is in doubt, may we sow faith. And where all is gloom, may we bring hope. Where all is night, may we bring light. And where all is tears, may we bring joy. Lord Jesus, may we not seek to be consoled, but rather let us bring consolation. Let us not seek understanding hearts, but rather let us look for hearts that understand. May we not look so much for love to be returned, but seek to love unselfishly and unconditionally. For it is in our giving that we receive. And it is particularly in forgiving that we are forgiven. When we seem to be dying, we can live and we can be reborn. We can walk through death's dark night to endless day with you, Lord. So, Lord, make us servants of your peace, so that we may be one day in your presence.